G'day, legends. Welcome to the Pot Noodle on Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me is the return of Liam. It's been friggin' ages, mate. We were just talking about that off air, so welcome back. And
Yes.
also Shane. How you going, Liam?
Good, mate. Good. It's been a very busy time lately. Yeah, lots of stuff going on, but yeah, hopefully I'll be back to doing these more regularly from here on out. Yeah, it's yeah. Also, if anyone is looking for something interesting to read, I have written quite a few blogs today, most of which we're going to talk about in the next half an hour or so.
Yep, 100%. So, yeah, check them out for Liam later on. He's obviously shared them. Plug it at the end, plug them at the end of the episode as well for you. But, yeah, how you going, Shane?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, mate. Good to be with you, fine gentlemen, as always, even if the result on the weekend wasn't what we wanted it to be. Plenty to unpack there. But no, the local A-League season kicked off here over the weekend. So the Melbourne Victory were back and the league season started. So was able to catch up with a few good mates of mine who I haven't seen since the end of last season. And there's no better feeling sometimes than catching up with your mates, having a bevy before the game, and standing on the terraces and singing songs for 90 minutes. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was good for it to be back.
Yep, 100%. It's good that the league's back over here, and yeah, we get to see who the next batch up and coming because it was a stat they did for the A League that I saw come out last week, and it was in terms of players under the age of 22 playing time, they're the fifth like highest for giving young players an opportunity to come through, which is so strange for the A League. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next generation come through and potentially spotting a few gems. We could say, "Come on, Celtic, sign them and get the next match going on the pod," which won't happen, but why not?
Yeah, I was about to say, that requires Celtic to go and actually sign them, mate. That's the part that's going to break down here.
And then
Yes.
for Brendan Rodgers to decide that they aren't just club signings,
On that, what is a club signing? I hate that.
The Japanese apparently at the moment.
Brilliant. But anyway, yeah, well, it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. So yeah, we'll just crack on straight into it. The game on was it last night for us? So yeah, we'll finish about midnight our time. Celtic 0, Dundee 2. Bit of an interesting game. So for me, going into the game, when I saw the starting lineup, the question was going to be, who's going to start? Is Maeda going to get up? Is Tenecti going to get up? The back line pretty much picked itself, in my opinion, and I was even wrong on that. Like, I was hoping Donovan would get a run. I know I may have said the Bricky would start on last Thursday's pod, but the more I thought about it, the more I was hoping Donovan wouldn't lose his spot. So, yeah, you had Casper, Tierney, Scales, Carter Vickers, Ralston, Atade, McGregor, Nigren in the middle. Up front, Iheanacho. On the right was Yang. On the left was Tenecti. So, seeing that lineup, Liam, what was your thoughts on that lineup going into the game?
Unfortunately, quite a clairvoyant one. I thought we're going to struggle to score goals today, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, we knew looking at their lineup that they were just going to park the bus like 2 rows of 5 and just make it difficult. So yeah, I had a similar sort of thing, especially when I saw Yang on the starting lineup there, and Robert Gibson pretty much sums up my thoughts on Yang's game already. Yang's bird isn't putting out, that's for sure. He's got to either get her back in town, or he needs to piss off down the road when the window opens. So yeah,
I mean, to be fair, he was in Dundee yesterday, and apparently, from what I've heard, if you've got money for a bag of chips there, you're not going home on your own. So, if he can't even score in Dundee, the boy's got problems.
that says a lot about our football club in general, doesn't it? And Shane, what was your thoughts when you saw the lineup?
Oh, look, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit concerned. Maeda not getting up definitely made it tricky. We know Brendan likes to play the two wingers with, the front three with the two wingers. And so if Maeda's not playing, then obviously either Yang or Forrest has to come in. And for me, I'm picking Forrest every time. So when you see Yang on the team sheet starting, there tends to be a little bit of trepidation there. Also in midfield, a little bit concerned as well. Not sure why Engels isn't getting a run. I think it was pretty clear yesterday that they were going to be pretty stodgy, that we were going to need to be creative I could probably underline that. And we're going to need quality in that middle third. And for me, Engels brings that in spades. So I think having Hatate there with Negrin and Calmac either side, it's clear Brendan hasn't really settled on a midfield trio all season, and it seemed like that was the same yesterday. So a little bit nervous. Still had plenty on the pitch to get the result and to get the win, but still, regardless, it's a little bit different.
The thing for me that was scary as well, though, was the looking at the bench, and that was the thing. Like, okay, if we're starting Yang, we know we're going to struggle to score. Who have we got on the bench that could potentially come on and score? And you look at it, you got Balikwisha, you got McCowan, you got Kenny, Engels, Forrest. There's like nothing really there. And I was going to talk about it. We'll talk about it a bit later on in the pod about game changes in the squad, but we're clearly there was no one there. Like, think back to Ange's first season, and you had Kyogo and you had Giacomakis. You had two guys that could do it, the same deal. But yeah, just jumping back to that midfield point you made, Shane, Kelmac, Hatade, Nigrin. It just hasn't worked all season. I don't know what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's pretty much
I thought it was supporting Rangers, but well. Yeah.
I thought it was Brendan Rodgers' tactics, but okay.
Whole bunch of things. So
yeah,
it's just ridiculous the way I'm looking at it. Like, Bernardo's not even in the squad. Is he injured, or is he just being dropped?
he was sick apparently. Apparently, he had the flu last week.
Okay, well that explains that. But still, Engels on the bench. Like, when we get into individual players and everything later on, I'll talk about it now. I thought once Engels actually come on, we had a bit of size in the middle. We had a bit of movement. We had a guy looking to pass and actually make runs forward. So the sub came way too late for Engels, but he needs to start getting a run. So yeah, it's a bit of a doozy, really. But yeah, overall, not ideal heading into the game. And then obviously, we know how the first half went. Bit of a shambles, really. So yeah, 2-0 down at half time. I'm going to talk about something that bothered me leading up to it. Like, before they scored, we were creating a few chances, right? Not the clearest ones, but we're getting into the right areas of the pitch and we're moving the ball and we're looking to like pass and be a bit more direct, right? Then we win 2 corners and we pass it short to KT, who puts a cross in. Win another corner off that, pass it back out, it gets to KT at the top, and then we just pass it around again.
What's the point?
What's the point? You win 2 corners. Yeah, they're a bit taller than us, but that's not a training ground move. That's just doing. Oh, my wife's has gone off in the comments, everyone. I have to bring it up quickly, but anyway, she's like, "Here we go. How are lads with heavy heart? Can they sack someone, please?"
Well, I've probably got the heaviest heart of the three of us, so am I getting sacked?
I was about to say, which one of us three is getting the sack? I think you're safe, Jared. So it's out of me and Liam, and I'm a little bit nervous now.
Yeah, I know what she's talking about. But yeah, just back to that, like the corner situation, it's absolute rubbish. Like, what's the point? I know there's stats that you only get like 10% of corners you get a shot on target, but all you got to do is do some practice on the training pitch, set up things where you start away and come to the spots, and then you just tell your guy to put cross into certain areas. And if you beat your man, you get it. So it's one of those where we absolutely butchered it, and then they go down the other end, get a corner, cross, bang onto the penalty spot, clear header, in it goes. Doesn't matter who was in goal, no one was keeping that out. Like, that was a fantastic header. Credit where it's due. Like, that was great cross and a well-placed header. But we're our own worst enemy. And then I said I think it was our group chat, the old Mike Tyson quote, everyone's got a plan till they're punched in the mouth, right? And that's what it seemed like to me in that game. We came in, we had a plan, we were doing okay. They got that goal, and then what? It was ridiculous. But yeah, Shane, you look like you got something to say, so I'll throw to you for your take on it.
Well, just on the corner situation, and I know you'll talk about him a bit later, but we've got a wonderful sort of set piece specialist or a player that we know can deliver a good corner sitting on the bench, not coming on until after the 80th minute. So, again, another frustration. But just on the first half itself, I think you really touched on it. There was absolutely no plan. It was really dire, really turgid, awful football, whatever adjective you want to use. It was a really, really poor performance. And the worst part about it was that not only were we lacking creativity and it was unimaginative and very repetitive, we also didn't look confident. And sometimes you can sort of we can be really patient and really passive, but eventually we look like we're going to find that right ball. And when we did have those half openings, like you were talking about, whether it's the ball over the top to Tierney running in, who hesitates, he should be hitting that on his right. He hesitates. He waits for it to hit on his left. It's too late. The Negron one, again, a ball over the top, picks up a good area in the box, steps on the ball. We just looked all out of sorts yesterday. We looked like a team really low on confidence and low on energy.
On that Negron one, you're talking about him tripping on the ball. There was another one. I can't remember if it was before or after. So Tierney should have taken it with his right foot, tried to get on his left, right? Have you seen Negron take a shot with his left yet?
No.
There you go. Because there was another one before, I think it was just before, a couple of minutes before, where the ball's come in and he's clear and he just had to chuck his left foot out and just a toe poke it and it would have been in, and he tries to adjust to his right foot, and by that point they recover.
Yep.
So there was those two clear chances in particular, and then there was another one from, I think it was Tenecti had a chance and he put a cross in instead of a shot. Early, like after their goal, they were putting crosses in. We were putting crosses in when we should have been shooting, and shooting when we should have been passing. It was all over the joint. But yeah, I think it's Paddy Lavery saying Liam's everywhere but the crib, so we've got to throw to Liam for his thoughts on it. Good on you, Paddy.
Nice to see you, Paddy. No, the thing that got me right with the Dundee goal in particular, and I was watching the game with my dad yesterday and talking to him as it was going on, and we noticed like 3 or 4 times before Dundee scored, balls getting crossed in from that side, going across the 6-yard box, were not being dealt with. There was one, it found the Dundee player at the back post, and luckily he took a fresh air swipe. There was another one that came through to somebody at the back post, and luckily he kind of kicked it off his other foot and it went away. But that was like at least 2 clear-cut chances coming from balls in from that side that we were not dealing with. And in the end up, that's where both their goals come from as well. So there's clearly a strategic flaw in our defence. And Dundee obviously were clearly working to a strategy of get down that line and get balls across the box specifically that way. I don't know if it's because they think Casper's slow to come out, or they think that our defensive pairing are maybe not as mobile as they should be. I don't know exactly what it is, but clearly that was a strategy they were playing to, and it worked.
Well, I think the winger realised that they had Tierney for pace. There were a couple of times in that first half where Tierney had bombed on to help contribute. They win the ball back, usually from a poor pass at the edge of the box, and they break. And that winger, Scales, is dragged out one-on-one, isolated with that winger because Tierney can't get back. And you can see him in the footage really struggling, putting in the hard yards to get back. And I think it was a known ploy that they realised that they could get that winger out in space and drag Scales wide.
You said exactly where I was going to go, Shane. They managed to target Tierney. We used to say they'd target Greg Taylor all the time, and they're doing the same thing to Tierney. He gets targeted, they beat him for pace. And then the thing is, you can't pick on the centre-back pairing because Scales was out covering for Tierney, so he was out of position. Carter Vickers is sliding over to cover for the guy running the near post, which means the Bricky is having to cover 2 guys at the back post or come towards the middle, having to make a decision, and then Calmax then having to drop to cover his spot. Or Rio was dropping to his spot quite a few times, particularly in the second half. So when you look at it that way, it was all breaking down, but I'm going to say it, is it a structural issue defensively, or is it we just don't have the talent defensively? Because I'm looking at it, if that was Alistair Johnson at right back, he's making a decision a hell of a lot quicker than the Bricky is, which means if he's got a cover in the middle, so then our other guys know where to cover. So that's the first thing. And the second one is if it was Srirachi starting on the left, for instance, which he's been in some good form since he's come in, we're not getting targeted that way. Tierney only looked good when we went to a back three. Let's be honest. So I don't know whether it's.
Yeah, sorry, just to come in on that point, we're either going to have to drop Tierney or we're going to have to switch to a back three. I think that's the ultimate reality of it. Is that with a four at the back, with him as the left back at the moment, it isn't working.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while that we need to like it's obvious, and we'll get into the formation talk up once we've wrapped up the game talk here because it has to be we have to get into it. But yeah, it's just not good enough. Like yeah, it's just bloody frustrating. And the second half, yeah, I think the second half could have gone for another 20 minutes and we wouldn't have scored. Honestly. We had like 23 shots for the game, only 3 on target, and that ties into what Heavy Vibes is saying here. Did we have any shots on target? Yeah, 3. But when you look at the stats, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, like I think at one point we'd had like 300 passes or something like that, and they'd had 70, and they were 1-0 up. So there you go. Total passes per game exactly 700 for us. They had 151. They had 10 shots, only 2 on target. Both were goals.
And they arguably could have gone 3-0 up with that flash header that went across Michael. They could have been 3-0 up and out of sight.
Could have been 4. Because that fresh air swing Liam mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky to get away with only a 2-0. Being 100% honest here, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the shots on target because Vinny and I caught up to watch the game, and that Balakwisha shot just on the cusp of stoppage time. I turned to Vinny and I said, "Is that actually our only shot on target for the game?" I genuinely couldn't remember the other two. I had to look them up later and refresh my memory. One of them was obviously Iheanacho, very close to the near post. But yeah, it was just we weren't creating anything clear cut. Like, obviously, you mentioned and we'll talk about the formation later, but there was a change at halftime where we shifted to what seemed to be some sort of really heavily dynamic 3-4-3. Like 3-5-2 or something like that, with 2 up top. But we still weren't creating anything, and we were struggling to actually get service. We've got 2 up top now, but we're struggling to get balls into the box. We're actually struggling to give them service, and it kind of begs the question. You've got to do something different, but what's the point of switching to a formation with 2 strikers up top if you're still not going to feed them? And that's where the frustration was lying. And we didn't really look any better. There was a little bit of energy, maybe a slight improvement, but nothing drastic. We didn't create an awful lot clear cut. It was a very similar output compared to the first, just maybe with a little bit of, I don't know, added speed.
The thing with playing a top 2 is they've got to play together as a partnership. And the fact of the matter is, there was no connection from the midfield. If you're going to go to a 3-5-2, you need to have someone playing as like a 10, like linking it up to the front two, right? Someone pushing forward. We didn't have that until Engels come on at the end. So the issue is, Enekti, I just can buy 2 new players' names. There you go. Enekti's a new player, everyone. There you go.
Well, that's our starting 2 striker pair, isn't it?
Yeah. So Iheanacho was coming deep to get the ball, and then he turns around, and where's Johnny Kenny? He's got no one to go to. He's drawn a centre-back with him. There's a gap there. Johnny Kenny making a run, but, there's just no link-up play. It's just weird.
And you could see that frustration as well a couple of times in the second half where Iheanacho had dropped and won the ball on the edge of the box, turned and put it in, expecting someone to make a run to the back post. No one's there. And he was getting visibly frustrated at that lack of cohesiveness in the squad.
Let's be honest. Last time you played a 3-5-2 under Rodgers, it was him and Vardy linking up. Bit of a drop-off from Vardy to Johnny Kenny.
Yeah. The whole thing is just... Well, by the way, if anyone's struggling to pronounce the new signings' names, there is a short form out there. It's Seb the Reb and Nacho Provo is what we're going with, right? So just if anyone's unsure of the pronunciations. But, yeah, can we just start playing with 2 strikers, please? I mean, we've got one of the top goal scorers in the J League at the moment, last season, who can't even get in the squad. We've got supposedly one of the best young prospects in English football. I know he's Welsh, but he trained in England. Osmond, currently in the B team. What was the point in signing either of them if we're not even going to put them on the bench, especially when we are so painfully short of goals?
Squad signings, Liam. Squad signings.
And Liam, you go to a back three, you go to a 3-5-2. Suddenly that opens up a spot for JSP to get in the squad too.
Well, God forbid that we actually play players that we've signed. I mean, come on.
They found him. I can't believe it.
It's funny that, but anyway, yeah, I think we'll just.
Are we sure he's not AI generated? Are we sure that he is actually a real player? Have we established that?
I don't know. So what we'll do is we'll jump on over all the other crap. So I just want to go, who was your man of the match? We'll just wrap it up there. For me, it was Congreve for them.
Yeah, their winger. I didn't know his name. Was that Congreve on the right?
Congreve, yeah.
Right winger, yeah.
And then close second was Dre Wright. I thought those two were probably their two best.
What a name. There's not many, if any.
Scribe.
There's a good throwback. Check it out, everyone. Scribe, not many. Great song going back to the early noughties. Not many Celtic players can hold their heads high. Not many get a pass mark for me. Probably Nacho. I thought he just worked himself silly. He didn't exactly do anything of note particularly, but he kept working and he was trying. And I didn't mind him showing visible frustration because we were all feeling it. So he was probably the only Celtic player I could give a pass mark to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think his shot in the first half where he actually hit the outside of the post was one of the closest we came to scoring ultimately as well. So, again, he didn't have a good game, but he was at least trying to make things happen. The biggest Celtic impact on the pitch was the tennis balls before kickoff.
Yep. So we'll go to that. So the tennis ball protest. Liam, you wrote an article on it for Axom. So we know where you sit, so we'll hold off a second. So
sure, yeah.
For me, seeing that, right, I've seen all sorts of things. There's been people saying, "Oh, this is bad looks bad for the club." There's people saying that, "Oh, this is going to turn people against you." Stop starts the game, so it upsets the players, and they look pissed off having to pick it up. And then someone was saying that the Dundee players looked angry after that and took their frustration out on us. So blaming the fans for us losing. I'm seeing people going down that rabbit hole. For me, tennis ball protest, drew attention. It's cheap and easy too. Get a couple of tennos. Doesn't cost a lot. You get a 3-pack for a couple of bucks or whatever. Go in there, throw it on the pitch. Happy days. At least it's not a bucket of sand, Shane, is it? Hitting the goalkeeper like we get down here.
Too soon, mate.
Never too soon. But, yeah, throwing the tennis balls on there draws the attention. TV cameras get to see the banner and all that sort of stuff. The more I think about it, I'm like, that was actually a clever thing. But, yeah, I don't really like people throwing shit on the pitch. But, you know, tennis balls, at least it's not lighters, bottles of Bucky filled with piss and all that sort of stuff like you get at Ibrox. Shane, what was your thoughts?
I had to think about this. I'm similar to yourself. Like I don't really like things being thrown onto the pitch. And you know, I'll put my hand up now. Would I personally do it? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't really take part in that. Look, I understand it, right? And I'm loath to criticize those who are protesting because I believe in what they're protesting about, and I think it's at the point where it's needed to escalate, right? I totally understand that, and I'm on board with it, and I understand why they're going down this path. I always think it's a little bit of a slippery slope when you start throwing things on the pitch, though, because you know there's obviously a line between what is a safe object you're throwing and what is potentially dangerous, right? I'm not suggesting anyone would have done anything nefarious, right? And you know, the whole stopping the game thing, Liam wrote an article about it really well. I don't want to steal his thunder on it, but the idea that stopping the game contributed to us not performing for the best part of 90 minutes, I think is pretty fanciful, in all honesty. So, look, I understand it. I understand the need to escalate it. I probably personally wouldn't do it. But yeah, we're at this point now where the silent protests led to obviously some discussion. That discussion yielded the board and those associated with it digging in. So obviously, when you're protesting, you need to take it to a next level.
So a couple of comments before we go to you, Liam. Paddy Lavery is saying the only ball shown by Celtic yesterday was from the fans.
Yep.
And Heavy Vibes are saying fans got more balls in the Dundee box than the team.
Very true. Yep.
So yeah, what are your thoughts, Liam?
Well, actually, my initial thoughts last night and what I had earlier today when I wrote my article were actually quite different, because I was very much in the same camp that Shane's in last night. I thought, I get why they're doing it, I get the message behind it, but I think it looks childish and it's a bad look. That was my initial feeling. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, actually, this is exactly the kind of protest that you need. One, nothing violent about it, right? Two, very cheap and easy to organise, right? Like you say, packet of tennis balls out of the pound shop or whatever, or Ibrox as they call it somewhere. And then you also have just this idea of how else, for almost zero money, are you going to get all of the Sky cameras focused on the Celtic end with all the anti-board banners, all the protest stuff, front and centre for a good 5 to 7 minutes? You cannot buy that kind of publicity unless you've got a lot of tennis balls. So I think you might not agree with the point of the way the protest was done. You might not agree with it. You might not agree with stopping the game. As I say, the theory that it contributed to us getting beat is complete horseshit as far as I'm concerned, because there were 89 minutes still to play after the balls were cleared and we'd done nothing. And any stop in the game, breaking momentum, whatever, that applies to both teams. Dundee also had to stop playing 1 minute after kickoff, right? When they'd done all the warm-up and all their prep as well. So if Dundee can get over it and still score 2 goals, why can't we? That's on the players, that's on the manager. That is not on the fans. And it's, yeah, all right, Paddy, I get it. All right, aye, okay, it's childish, but I've got my Transformers here. Yeah, touche, mate. Okay, well said.
There's a big sword behind him, Paddy. Just careful.
So we've got comment here, Robert Gibson saying at least the tennis balls landed on target.
Yeah.
Then we got Andrew Galea saying it's bullshit stopping the game. I hardly think the game had really even started at that point in time.
What I would say to Andrew, and I'm not disagreeing with you, mate. I get your point. Your point is valid, even if I don't agree with it.
There's a lot of balls. Yep. Go on.
A protest doesn't have to be popular to be effective, right? A lot of Celtic fans did not like that yesterday. That is clear from what I've been reading online. A lot of fans did not agree with that, right? But it worked. It had, because the whole point of a protest is to draw attention to your movement, and that's what it did. Like I say, for at least a good 5 minutes, the Sky cameras were completely focused on the fans and their message. It worked.
Yep.
And that is as I said, people are going to be unhappy about it. You know, I got quite a bit of abuse. I actually had to take the rare step of blocking somebody today who was getting personal with me because he disagreed with the tone of the article. And I was like, well, look, you can disagree with the action, but it's fundamentally wrong to say that it was ineffective, because it was totally effective. It totally achieved the point it set out to do, which was to draw attention to the fans' anger.
Liam, you're too nice, mate. You're too nice, Liam. You blocked someone. I would have just told him to eat a bag of dicks and got on with it.
Now, to be fair, I told him to go and pump his sister and go to Ibrox before I blocked him. You know, I mean, I'm not a completely nice guy. You know, I can be. Yeah.
So we got Robert Gibson. It's the only ball control we had all day. Robert saying, did they get the tennis balls back? So we'll need them again next week. Yeah. So it's a bit of an interesting one. Fucking Paddy. I feel a movement coming on. Fucking Paddy, mate. Off you go.
Not that kind of movement, Paddy, for fuck's sake.
It's got to go to the bog, everyone. For the audio people who can't see your comments on here, Buddy's saying, I can feel the movement coming, might have to go to the bog. There we go. Anyway, so, yeah.
Speaking of bogs, can we go on to hunt scalping now?
No, not yet. We're going to get into some bog standard management here from Brendan. So,
Nice segue.
I nailed that one. I'll give myself a pat on the back.
That was more accurate than any of Celtic shots yesterday. Well done, mate.
For once, I actually come through with the goods. There you go. I'm in career best form. So, is Brendan's stubbornness with the formation and team tactics playing a major factor in our poor form this season? Now, we touched on it a bit earlier about the formation thing, right? It's like, to me, Brendan looks like he only wants to play his 4-3-3, right? And that's it. It's like he only knows that. And he had the comment about, the Honda Civics and the Ferraris. Well, at the end of the day, that sort of comment, you got to think about it. Your players are going to hear that. You've got the biggest wage budget in the league. You spent the highest amount on transfers like last year. This year, not the highest, but you still spent more than pretty much every club outside of Ibrox in the league. Right? And here you are managing our team so poorly that you're calling your team Honda Civics and saying that they're doing that against Ferraris. So are you saying Dundee's players are Ferraris and our guys are Honda Civics? Because if that's the case, if I was in that locker room, I'd be taking his Gucci belt off him and just fucking chasing him around and smacking him with it. Honestly, fucking that's just shit management. I would not respect that guy. As a player, someone who's played basketball at a decent level, right, and has coached, you say shit in the locker room that you don't say in public. Like, I've had coaches absolutely berate me in a locker room for stupid shit, but then in public, oh yeah, it was a team effort. Maybe if I had made this sub earlier, blah, 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 and you get on with it. And they take the heat for your players, but then they absolutely blast you behind the scenes. You don't do that in the public. Are you Steven Gerrard in disguise? Like, throwing players under the bus? It's fucking pathetic. So I just think his stubbornness and refusing to change. We talked about the 3-5-2 formation. With the players we have, that suits us better. Tenecti looks good as a wing back. So is Balikwisha. We know on the other side, Tierney can't play left back. He has to play as a back in the left centre back position. Let's be honest. The midfield three, that if you went to that, you could have Engels, Kalmak, who's undroppable apparently, in there. And then you could actually put Nigren into his natural position as a 10, play two strikers together. Next thing you know, you're absolutely flying. It makes more sense with the players we've got. And it would even work when Jota comes back and Maeda's back and AJ's back. I just don't get it. Why the stubbornness to change? What did you thought, Shane?
Well, to comment very quickly on Brendan's sort of musings in public about the players and the Honda Civics and Ferraris comment, I was told a long time ago, critique in private, praise in public. You don't go out and chew people out in a public capacity like that. And, I was watching his press conference from the game last night, and again, he was critical of the front line, basically the wingers and the forward line, and basically saying that they didn't deliver. Again, really frustrating take. But I want to use that to segue into the discussion about the formation, right? Because this line around not having the quality and, his stubbornness or his difficulty with picking the right wingers and saying he doesn't have the quality. If you don't have the quality in the wingers, why not switch? And particularly it was pertinent for yesterday with Maeda being out, where you've got Yang starting, you've got Forrest on the bench who's going to come on and replace one of Yang or Tenetki. You've got Balikwisha, who doesn't look up to scratch just yet. Why not, if you are so frustrated with the quality of wingers that you have up at your disposal, why not switch to a 3-5-2 then and play without the wingers and play with two up top then? Why not do something different? Why keep trying to fit a square peg in a round hole and then continually say, I don't have the quality, or the quality's not there, or the wingers aren't delivering? Well, do something about it then. It's staggering. I think his stubbornness is the word I would use. I think you've hit the nail on the head. He is very stubborn with his formation, and then when it doesn't work, seems to come out and sort of indicate, well, I don't have that quality. Now, you can debate that. That's totally fine, right? There is a separate parallel debate to this about him not getting maybe the quality of player that he wanted or needed. But he's got enough quality there that should be going to Dens Park and winning a game of football. And if he's not getting that quality or working with that quality, that's on him, no one else.
Let's be honest. If you were a player in that lineup and you're told, "Oh, don't take any chances, just pass the ball backwards to your centre backs, reverse it, swing it around, back and forward," and then your strikers are making all these runs and not getting the ball, your wingers are making runs and not getting the ball, you're going to stop doing that. And the fact of the matter is, and that's why when you said about his comment, Shane, about having a go at the forwards, I just grabbed my head and was shaking it because I'm like, makes no sense. They need service. If your defenders are holding the ball more than your midfielders, you got issues. If your midfielders can't figure out how to play together, you've got issues. If your midfielders can't find and actually make a 10 meter long pass, actually get to someone because there's defenders there, they don't know how to thread a pass through. It's just befuddling. They're just absolute idiotic. It's an idiotic comment. I'm going to throw to you in a sec here, Liam, but the thing for me is what frustrates me is he's talking about Honda Civics compared to Ferraris. His first stint, he was the Ferrari coming in from Liverpool. His changes, he had his notebook. He would write things down. He'd make a sub, bang, impact, straight away. Where's that gone? He doesn't have the impact in his subs. Even if he has lesser players now, he can still impact the game. Change your formation. Change your subs. He's not good enough. And the average managerial career is 10 to 15 years. He's been a manager for 17 years now. Is he becoming the dinosaur that people refer to Neil Lennon as being? Because at least Lenny would make changes to his formation. At least Lenny would, be conservative. Like if you're away in Europe, sit back and be a bit deep, like a lot deeper. It's just pure stubbornness and ego. That's all it is. And it's like he's in a battle against the board. I didn't want these players. I'm not going to sign them. I'm not going to play them. There's 8 of our squad of 24 players or 25 players. He's refusing to play 7 of them or 8 of them. So he's put his hands behind his back. Then he's got Jota out. He's got Maeda out. You're left with 16 players that you're willing to play. It's fucking pathetic. So I'm going to go to you, Liam, because I'm ranting here.
Another thing which, now, this is not my opinion, but I fully expect somebody somewhere is going to jump on this, right? Rodgers needs to be more careful with his choice of words as well. He's not just throwing players under the bus that's bad, right? But see, when you go on a rant about how crap Honda Civics are, Japanese brand, and the 2 most high-profile players that you're refusing to play for absolutely no justifiable reason other than you didn't sign them are Japanese players, and you've got 2 other Japanese players who want away but you wouldn't sanction their transfer, it's no good look.
We'll go one further here, Liam. What did he do to Kyogo?
Yeah, fucking ruined Kyogo, right? By refusing to fit his formation to accommodate our best player. Kyogo was at the time our best player, and he's still probably a better forward player than anything we've got at the moment. And he left because he was pissed off because he wasn't being played to his strengths. So Rodgers has now Celtic's policy should have been clearer. They should have, obviously Rodgers and the recruiting team were not on the same page when they brought in Inamura and Yamada, right? That is not entirely Rodgers' fault. It's not entirely the recruitment team's fault. It's a breakdown in communication. It's certainly not the players' fault, but they both just completely tanked any chance they have at playing for Japan anytime soon by going to Celtic and being stuck in the B team. But they can't even get a game for the B team because they're not playing there either. They're in limbo. And it's just because, like you said, Jared, Rodgers' 2 biggest weaknesses, his inflexibility and his ego, right? Think about every press conference that Brendan Rodgers has done when we've lost a game or we failed to win a game or we've had a disappointing performance. Have you ever at any point heard him say, I got it wrong today. The tactics weren't right?
Once. And you know when he did that? I can tell you when it was. Exactly. Yeah. So in his first stint, his second last game before he walked out in like a thief in the night, he said it in that press conference after the game. I remember exactly when it was. I will never forget that. Because it was the one time he showed humility that he fucked it, and then he scurried off like 3 or 4 days later.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? You need to have humility if you're going to manage a team as big as Celtic. Brendan Rodgers does not strike me as a man with humility. He strikes me as a very arrogant man who used to be a very good manager, but his stock has fallen. As Paddy said in the comments a minute ago, both times that Rodgers came to Celtic, he was unemployed. He was unemployed for a reason.
The thing is,
twice he's tanked his reputation elsewhere, then came to us to get the revival.
Yeah. The thing with Rodgers is a bloody good talker. And that's the easiest way to sum it up. You hear him in interviews and he sounds like, really intellectual and you just, and you're like, okay, cool, I get what you're saying. You sound really knowledgeable. But what he says and what he does, that just doesn't marry up half the time. And it's one of those things where he talks a good game, but he's not delivering a good game now. And it's just frustrating me. I think his stubbornness is part of the problem. It's two separate issues we've got going on at the club at the moment. We've got to separate the two of them, everyone. You've got the board issue, which the collective is dealing with the protests and everything. That's one issue. We need change at board level, regardless of what's happening with Rodgers. So let's put that one to the side. Then you've got what's going on the pitch, the football side of it. So the football department, the recruitment, the players not being played, the guys being played out of position, not rotating if guys are out of form. I honestly don't think we have any player in this team at the moment that is actually in any good form. Niggerin came in absolutely flying and he's played himself into poor form. Malik Wish has come in. I actually reckon he'd be best suited in the 10 role for us. But we're playing him on the wing. Starts in the derby and then he's just a bench player. Tanekti comes in, he's doing well, but he's starting to slow up now because teams are picking up on him.
God, Balikwisha looks so bad. Sorry, I had to say it.
Who's playing here that actually is in good form? The only one I can think of is Colby Donovan. That's it. And Liam Scales. Sorry, they're the two best guys for our team this season.
Liam Scales is our most consistent player this season, and with the greatest of respect to him, on his best days, a 7 out of 10. The difference is he rarely drops below like a 5 out of 10. So he's always just there,
Ideally, Liam, for Champions League, Scales should be the backup centre-half. He shouldn't even be starting in the Champions League.
No. Yeah. No, I said that last season. He proved that he was good enough to get a new contract and to be a worthy part of the squad, but a part of the squad we should be improving on. Not the first pick. And not only not the first pick, but the fact he is our best player in performance level at the moment is really, really worrying, to be quite honest.
Let's compare.
The other thing is, sorry, just a quick wee rant here, right? The thing with Rodgers, why is it that there are certain players that he just will not consider dropping no matter what, right? Schmeichel seemingly undroppable. McGregor seemingly undroppable, right? Carter Vickers looks as if he's been playing with an injury for about the past 2 months. Undroppable. That's bad management. That is bad management, especially when you have players in this who you won't even put into your matchday squad who have been signed and recruited because they are very good at the level they played at previously. I mean, here's the thing, right? A wee bit of an inside info here from Japan. Maeda's off in January, right? That seems 95% nailed on, right? I don't have any absolute confirmation of that, but that is what everybody's saying over here, right? Maeda wanted to go in August. He's definitely going in January because, he wants to go at a higher level, and he's currently in the squad for the World Cup, but he wants to be starting. so he needs to be scoring goals in Germany, England, somewhere higher league, right? Fair enough. And Dyson owes Celtic nothing. He's been a brilliant player for us. Wish him all the best. But here's the thing. Celtic had the chance in August to sign the next Dyson, Taisei Miyashiro, who currently plays for Vissel Kobe, Kyogo's old team, right? Brilliant young striker with pace, can play on the wings. He is what Dyson was 3 or 4 years ago. A raw talent, blistering pace, has a good eye for goal, excellent all-round player. No fucking chance is he coming to Celtic now after he sees the utter shit show that's happened with Inamura and Yamada. And this is a player that was offered to us in August. I even wrote a blog about it. We could have signed him when Dyson left, if Dyson had left. And he would have been a ready-made replacement.
Let's be honest, Liam. If we were smart, Shin's come in as Kyogo's replacement. Dyson's replacement's the guy you've just spoken about.
Yeah.
So it's a market that's done well. The players come in and the level is not really much of a drop-off thing, so the players can fit right in. It's an easy transition from because there's other Japanese players there. It's a pathway. We should be the club that players in Japan are looking at going, I want to go to Europe, but I want to do well on this first move and have a few of my countrymen there. Okay, I'm going to go to Celtic for a year or two and then look to make my next move, and then Celtic gets the next one out of Japan, and then we sell them from us to the clubs in Germany, to the clubs in Holland, to the clubs in England, wherever, and we become that stepping stone club for these Japanese players coming in. You do that, it's a perfect way to position yourself. The board will love it because you're making a shit ton of money on the salons when you sell them on. And at the same time, it's something that we know of the level. It makes sense, but, Rodgers just won't play these Japanese guys.
Asian players, like Japanese and Korean, are both good investments for a Scottish team. Hearts have done it, Motherwell have done it, other teams have done it as well, because their engine is phenomenal. Even if they're not the best players, you will get a full 90 minutes out of them. And that, quite often, in the Scottish League, that's enough to get you by. That's enough. That can be the difference between winning a game and not winning it, that extra 10% of fitness or whatever. And like you say, if the players are decent, you'll always turn a tidy profit. And Celtic are absolutely tanking their reputation over here right now with this. You can blame Rodgers, you can blame the board, whatever. I think they're both equally culpable in this regard. If Rodgers didn't want to play them, they shouldn't have been signed. Once they'd been signed, he shouldn't have frozen them out for no justifiable reason. I mean, you actually saw in pre-season, if you watched the couple of games that Inamura played, right, you actually saw him degenerate in real time. First game against Cork City, he's charging down the wing. You're thinking, this is the attacking fullback. We need this. Is brilliant. By the time you get to that next game, the friendly in Portugal, stop, pass it back inside. It's like, oh God, Brendan Rodgers has had a word with him. Yeah. And that's it. That's it.
And that's exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about England before and the others. Same deal.
Yeah.
So Paddy Lavery is saying Rodgers has fucked up the signings, only featured players from Japan. McLaughlin's saying, will Maeda even come back to Glasgow after November's break?
I wouldn't blame him if he didn't. But...
And then you've got Vinny saying, don't think Rodgers rates the leagues in Asia. Because it's not just that. He's talking about Asia. Yeah, that includes Australia, Tilio. Then you have a look at the guys, like the Korean guys. You have a look at the Japanese guys. Yeah, there's just an issue there. And, yeah, the club wants him. Rodgers won't play him. So, and that's where and that's the thing where I look at it. If you go through that and we don't have any game changes in the squad coming off the bench, you can turn it around like we've spoken about. Like, the only guys I can think who aren't playing at the moment are potential game changers. Well, Brendan won't drop Calmac, so that rules Bernardo out to come in as a Portuguese under-21 captain. He's a game changer. Someone can come in. Engels, he's spent £11 million on him. He's on the bench, won't play the kid, right?
When he does play, he's out of position.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have a look at the back. We're talking about 3 players in particular that Rodgers won't drop. Calmac, we just spoke about that. CCV, he's out of form. Where's Trusty? Where's Dane Murray? Where's JSP? Particularly Simpson Pusey, we haven't seen him in a Celtic top, yet he was the Premier League 2 Player of the Year as a centre-back, played in the Champions League for Man City, played in the EPL. There's a player there, obviously. So what's going on? And then the other one is Casper's been in some pretty average form this season. We've got a player on the bench in Sinisalo. has not looked bad when we played him.
And is now a full Finland international,
Exactly.
consistently.
Exactly. So you're looking at all of that, and Brennan's stubbornness and the lack of game changers as well. You got Jota, who's injured, is one to put in there. But at the end of the day, like, we've got players there that can come in. We've got enough guys in the squad. So it gets to the point where I've got to ask this: what's next to turn things around at Celtic? Where does the buck stop? And the reason I'm saying that is it time for Brendan to move on? Because if he does, we've got to rebuild the football department, and we'll get into that. But yeah, it's one of those sort of things where what are we going to do to turn it around, Shane? Does the buck stop for this with Rodgers? Does it stop? Because I'm saying for separating the two things, we put the board shit to the side. This is purely football related. This has to sit with Rodgers, doesn't it?
I think you can still take into account things leading up to this situation that are outside of Rodgers' control, right? I don't think it's all completely on Rodgers necessarily in terms of where we have landed right now. But you still have to put your best foot forward and make the best of what you have. And Rodgers isn't doing that at the moment. And we've talked at length, obviously, about his stubbornness to stick to a 4-3-3 when, he continually complains about the lack of quality with the wingers. It makes logical sense to switch to something that doesn't necessarily rely on wingers. And, that seems pretty straightforward to me, but he's very stubborn in not wanting to do that. So, look, there has to be a significant change. We don't have any game changers apart from Engels coming off the bench, in my opinion. I mean, you could make a very strong argument or a very minor argument, that McCowan could be, and I look at him very, very positively. But they're the only two. I wouldn't necessarily call Bernardo a game changer, in my opinion. That's just my take on it. But Engels definitely. But then Engels should be starting. So I don't really want him coming off the bench as a game changer because he should be out there from first whistle. And I think back to the previous teams. I think back to previous players who used to play up front that we could call on as game changers. You think of under And, where we could bring on, obviously you mentioned him before, Giacomakis, but also the likes of Leo Labada, right?
Comment section.
Yeah. I just, I spied the comment section as well and got distracted. Something needs to change. It's coming to a head now. I think I think up until this point, Rodgers, I'm not going to blame the players. I'm not blaming them for this, right? But I think for a while now, Rodgers has escaped a lot of criticism because of the board situation and maybe his comments alluding to the board and the scouting department and everything of the like. He's escaped a lot of criticism for what I think has been a relatively poor performing Celtic team for probably the back end of last season up until now. You think of after that Bayern Munich game, we haven't hit anywhere near the level we would expect this club to be at. We lost a treble, and we've started this season really poorly in all competitions. And he's escaped most of that blame because of the upheaval with the board and the frustration. People are starting to come around to that now and realize, well, hang on, you've still got a team that is good enough to go to Dens Park and get a win, and good enough to get a result, and good enough to, continue dominance in the league. And it's not washing with people anymore, these excuses. So something's going to have to change. I think personally he has to move to a different tactical formation because we're not going to be able to bring anybody in until January. So if he's frustrated with the lack of quality of wingers, that's not changing anytime soon. So he's going to have to do something to either build those wingers up that he's frustrated with to the point that they're world beaters, or move to something that better suits the actual playing group that he thinks, or the qualities of the playing groups that he thinks he has. But it has to happen now. It actually should have happened last week or yesterday against Dundee. It would have been the perfect time to actually look at something different. Now he's got a European fixture against Sturm Graz and then a challenging away fixture against Tynecastle to try and do this. I can't see us picking up any results in either of those games unless something drastic happens.
So I'll bring up some comments and we'll get to you, Liam. We've got to say here, Slobbering Cabbage is saying, we must remember not to take your eyes off this board. Rodgers is part of the problem now, but the board employed him.
Yes. Yeah. No, and they'll put another... They'll put... And all they'll do is replace him with somebody they think will be more compliant.
Paddy Lavery is saying, I blame Jerry Taylor. That's
Poor Jerry.
Jerry, if you tune in at all, there you go. You're not even missing out on getting shots fired over here. So Andrew Galea is saying this here. Rogers sets the tone, pissed and moaned all through the window, freezing players out. He's responsible. What do you think?
Not 100% responsible, but definitely carries a large degree of responsibility. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I'll take what you said, Shane, where you're not really putting it on the players. I am. You know why? Professionals. That's your job. If I go to my job and don't do well, I get fired. If they go to their job and don't do well, they get benched, right? So there's got to be some professional standards that they're trying to live up to. Now, Rogers is checked out. Let's be honest. He doesn't want to leave, but he's basically winding his contract down. He's having issues with the board, so he's being a bit of a dick, right? So that's going to rub off on your players. The standards are going to drop. The players don't look as fit as last season, and so on, right? So a fair chunk of it, we spoke about the board issues, we spoke about the recruitment. That's issues, so that's part of it. Rogers on the day-to-day has to set the tone. And if he's not doing that, your captain has to set the tone. And if Kelmack's not doing that, and look at the form he's in, if Bruni was struggling, he'd go out there and clatter someone. And that'd spark the game to life, right? Kelmack's a completely different player, but what I'm saying is the captain needs to step up and lead in one way or another. So someone's got to step up. Who that is, I don't know. So
I just want Ange back in a bag of cans.
So if Brendan was to move on, how do we rebuild the football department? Because I want to get someone that's going to reset the foundations and set us up for our next 5-year block, right? 3 to 5 year block of consistent football, aggressive, playing the Celtic way. I said on Friday on Axon, I want a director of football. I've actually said that numerous times. Jackie McNamara would be ideal for me. And then you bring in a manager, and then if that manager is to move on, you have Celtic playing a certain type of football. We don't go from a heavy pressing game, or we don't go from Lenny's team, which was what that was, to Ange's pressing, to Rogers' possession-based pass across the back. There's no consistency across your squad, right, and how you play. So you got to turn players over constantly. So if you get a director of football, this is the tone, this is what we do, and then you have a running list of this manager moves on, these are the next 5 we want to contact, and build that up. So that's what I want to get to. So if we were to set that up, I said Jackie McNamara would be ideal for the director of football. Who do we look at as a coach? People who are going to be out of contract. Currently, they're getting linked. Everyone's saying bring about Ange. You've just said that, Liam, right? People are saying Muscat. People are saying to take the piss out of the Huns, the Sheffield Wednesday manager. What's his name? That Cole or whatever it is.
Is it Danny Roll?
Danny Roll, that's the one. People are saying Damien Duff. People are saying Sean Maloney. Now, the one for me, a starting point, who we should go at and at least talk to him. For me, that would be, let's reach out to Marco Rosa straight away. It's out of work at the moment.
Sure.
If you could get Marco Rosa in as your manager, lock him in for 3 years, right? And get the program built. At the same time, you get someone like, I said, Jackie McNamara as an example of someone for the director of football, but it's not been a good week for former Celtic managers. Ange gets sacked by Nottingham Forest. Ronnie Dahlia gets sacked by Atlanta United in the MLS, right? So Ronnie's really good at developing young players and bringing them through. Brendan's first stint, that was majority Ronnie's team that he brought and developed for a couple of years and then handed on to Brendan with like 2 or 3 players added. Director of football, put Ronnie in that role if you want. That way he can oversee the academy. And then if you have Marco Rosa there as your coach, you're flying. That's what I'm thinking. Something like that is if we want to push forward as a club. But I don't know. We'll throw it to you, Shane. What are you thinking?
Just before I get on to the manager talk, if there happens to be a reset, if Rogers leaves and we are looking for a new gaffer, the one thing that is crystal clear is this divide and this disconnect between the board and the manager we have to solve that issue first and foremost. You have to get that sorted first, and you'd be getting that sorted first before you bring anyone else in. And it happened under Ange. There were times, obviously, when Ange first signed, where players came in like James McCarthy, that this wasn't an Ange signing, and it was sort of plucked for him. We have to sort that out. You have to be a cohesive team, and that's from board to manager down to players. It's important, and when you have that divide, it only leads to disconnect, frustration, and potentially, obviously, bad performance. So that is critical that we solve that issue first and foremost. In terms of who I'd be looking to bring on, look, I'd love Ange back personally, right? As an Australian, I have to say that. But honestly, he did wonders for this team. It was so exciting watching an Ange-led Celtic team. Every week was a joy. And you think about what we face at the moment with Brendan Rodgers. You've got the teams playing that low block, but it's that possession-based football. It's very patient. It's very passive. It's waiting for the right moment. Ange's teams were just absolutely relentless, right? Teams would sit in a low block, and Ange would just keep going at them. You'd have Abada, you'd have Maeda. They'd just keep driving at them. And those opposition teams would just have to reset and constantly reshuffle all the time. They never got a moment's peace. They were never comfortable. It was wonderful to watch. I'd love that back again. If not, I'm also, and I know this won't go down well with the fan base, I don't ever expect it to actually come to fruition. I'm a big advocate for Kevin Muscat. He's obviously very similar to Ange and followed the same trajectory, and Ange has been a significant factor and influence on his career. And, he's had success in multiple continents as well. But crucially, he's now had success, and he looks like he's going to go back-to-back in the Chinese Super League with his club, Shanghai Port. He's now had success in a place where he didn't follow Ange, where he's had to stand on his own. He's clearly a very good and competent manager that can get the best out of his teams. And personally, in Australia, he got the best out of a Melbourne Victory team on many occasions, and for my opinion, probably doesn't get enough credit for the title success he had in 2015. A lot of people attribute that to Ange. Kevin, in my opinion, had a much bigger impact on that title team than Ange necessarily, but that's another topic for another day. Outside of that, just before you jump in, no, actually, I'll let you jump in because you're host, and I don't want to get kicked off.
On the Muscat thing, the one thing I just want to make sure everyone's aware of is people they automatically think of Rangers. Muscat is completely different as a manager than he was as a player. As a player, he's a psycho. As a manager, he's very controlled. He's a prick. His teams play aggressive, right? But the thing is, we looked at Ange where he'd won titles in Australia, 4 titles in Australia, 1 in Japan. So he'd won 5 titles when he came to us. Muscat's about to get his 5th title as well. Yeah. 2 in Australia, 1 in Japan, 2 in China. So all things considered, he's at that same point in his career where he wants to come across. Now, there's a comment here from William O'Toole saying Muscat has turned it down. He turned the Huns down because he wants to see out the season in China, and they want him to take a pay cut. So there's the 2 issues. If he comes to us, he wouldn't have to take a pay cut. And let's be honest, we're not going to be looking to get rid of Rodgers anyway at the moment. And people can say, as Paddy Lavery saying, he's a fucking Hun. What did he do? He played 10 games for them years ago, yet his background and having met the guy a few times, he's actually one of us, mate.
If you do the math, I have probably spent more time at Ibrox going to see Celtic play them than Muscat did on that pitch. Certainly nobody would dare call me a Hun.
Yeah. Anyway, Shane, back to what you were saying.
Just a little bit of a left field manager call if we ever get there. I don't necessarily think it would happen, but shout out to Stephen Bradley, who's been managing Shamrock Rovers in the Irish League. So he's been there for quite a while. He's had a lot of success with that team and was able to get them into Europe as well. Obviously, it'd be a massive step up, right, going from the Irish League up into Scotland managing Celtic. So I don't necessarily think it would happen like that. But he's someone that the club should be looking at. He's clearly a very good manager that can get a lot out of the players that he has in a league like the Irish League. So, yeah, just a little bit of a left field one there. And a shout out to Stephen, who's done a tremendous job at Shamrock Rovers.
Now I'm going to bring up this comment to Paddy because he said to me, Jared, get off the phone. That's not professional. It's called fact checking, mate. Shane says some stuff. I want to fact check it.
That I feel uncomfortable that Jared doesn't trust me to come with the right information. That he's like,
Oh,
no,
wait a
you
minute,
said
wait
it.
a minute. Paddy's declared war in the comments here.
Brilliant. Anyway, so Liam, you got anyone you want to add to that, or
Look,
your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna put them together. I'm gonna say go for the dream team. I think Ange is director of football and Muscat is the manager. I would love to see that. Like I said when Ange left, I'd said while Ange was still at Celtic that I wanted this to be a new culture for Celtic. Not just while Ange is there, because Ange was already in his mid-50s by that point. So I'm like, this can't go on forever. And I'm like, we want this pattern to continue. The relationship with Asia, the style of play that Ange brought. I wanted that to be the way Celtic do their thing going forward, even long after Ange has left the building, right? Muscat to me is the continuity candidate. He's the one that would keep that going and build on it with some of his own ideas. And I don't care if he played for the Huns for 10 minutes, right? I genuinely don't, right? Look, you can play for Rangers and not be a Hun, right? I make a distinction there, right? Nacho Novo, Spanish, Catholic, Hun, right? Neil McCann, similar story, Hun, right? Somebody like, I'm trying to think of an example, Defoe played for the Huns for, a year or two. Lovely guy, does a lot of charity work. Not a Hun, in my opinion, right? So that's where you have the differential. To me, Muscat is an ex-Rangers player. I don't think he's a Hun. So I would have no problem with him coming to Celtic if it was possible. Plus, the meltdowns would be absolutely glorious. I mean, I would need to take a week off work and buy a lifetime supply of tissues. I swear to God.
I've got one
do a show for 3 weeks and just stick to my monitor.
I've got one other name. If we're going to look at ones in Japan, Australians managing in Japan who've done well, got the thing behind them. I'm throwing a random name out there. Arthur Pappas. There you go. That's one that, if you don't know, Google him. The guy, the old FFA Cups are now the Australia Cup. When that came in, he took a semi-professional team called Bentley Greens and got them through to, I think it was the final or the semi-final or something like that. They knocked out 3 A-League teams on the way through. This guy is an up-and-coming coach. He's at Saraza Osaka or something like that at the moment. I completely butchered that, Liam. My apologies to the Japanese audience.
No, it's all right.
He's one to keep an eye on as well. But anyway, that's my thoughts. And I think what we'll do is we'll wrap the pod up there. We're going a little long here. But, got some final thoughts to finish it off. So you got one ready, Shane?
Yeah, I do. I haven't actually mentioned it on the previous pod, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to do so now. So I've joined up and have been doing the Walking for 1 Foot Forward again this October, as has Liam as well. And Liam, I know you've been killing it on the kilometres as always, mate. You're a machine, and I don't know how you do it.
I've just got far too much free time on my hands.
Well,
the trick is to keep your Fitbit on while you're masturbating. That counts as extra yards. Anyway, handy hint there, everybody. Every yard counts. Right.
Well, this is going to get really.
You say yard, Liam. Come on now. Settle down, chode boy.
What? It's my gift. It's my curse. What can I say? Sorry, Shane. Back to you.
I was just going to say I'm really enjoying it, and a big thank you to everyone who's donated so far. I've been generously supported, and I just wanted to give everyone a shout out who's donated. It's been awesome. I'm generally heartfelt and touched by your generosity and ability to support me and raise funds for such an important cause. And it's hard to be serious with that comment after what Liam just did, so I'm going to leave it there.
I'm sorry.
Liam?
Well, I again, as Shane said, we're doing the 1 foot forward thing. It is for mental health. It's a great cause, something that I think you all know means a lot to me personally. And yeah, I'm glad to be involved. And thank you to those who have donated so far. And if anyone would like to chuck a couple of quid my way, it will go to the mental charity. I promise I will not spend it on beer or pornography, at least not this time. No, listen, it's a good cause. Please support it. Okay. And I would just like to... Yes. Right. Apparently 87% of men do it on a regular basis. You know what that means? It means that 13% of men are fucking liars. Anyway, moving on. I would like to leave you with this thought, okay? I think that it's a bit unfair the way we judge people sometimes, all right? Why is it that whenever anybody talks about David Beckham, they always say, David Beckham, brilliant footballer, thick as pig shit, right? But nobody ever says, Stephen Hawking, genius, shite at karate. I mean, fair's fair, right?
Fucking hell, mate. And the crowd goes mild.
Be fair with your comments, right? Balance. It's all about balance.
Shane's like, I don't know him. All right. Well, for me, my final thought, it's really simple. Not another penny. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hail, hail.
Hello.
Well,